Have you ever really stopped to think about where countries come from? I mean, not just the lines on a map, but the idea of a country? Today, we're going to trace one of the most powerful ideas ever, nationalism. We'll see how it took 19th century Europe from this crazy quilt of empires and completely redrew the map into the nations we know today. And it all kicks off not on a battlefield, but inside an artist's imagination.
So check this out. It all starts with a dream, literally, captured in this incredible painting from 1848 by a French artist, Frédéric Soriot. What he imagined was a world of democratic and social republics. You see all these people from all over Europe and America marching in this huge procession right past the Statue of Liberty, finally free and united, each with their own flag.
It's a beautiful idea, right? But here's the thing. When Soriot painted this, the world looked nothing like it. At all. His vision wasn't just hopeful, it was a radical, almost impossible fantasy. So what was going on in the real world that made this beautiful dream seem so completely out of reach?
To really get what was about to happen, this huge revolution that was going to sweep the continent, we have to look closer at Soriot's dream. Every little detail in this painting, it's a clue to this explosive new idea.
Look at how Soriot pictures it. He sees nations as groups of people, identified by their flags and their clothes. Up at the front, you've got the USA and Switzerland. They were already nation-states, so they're leading the charge. Right behind them is France with its revolutionary tricolor flag. And that black, red, and gold flag? Well, that's not a country yet. That's the hope of a unified Germany. And check out what's on the ground. The shattered crowns of the old kings who had total power. Floating above it all, you've got angels, symbolizing this idea of brotherhood between all these new nations.
The reason this was so mind-blowing at the time is because it was, in a word, utopian. It was a vision of a society so perfect, so ideal, that it seemed basically impossible. This wasn't just about drawing new borders. It was about totally rethinking who should have power and what actually binds people together.
Okay, so let's look at the world Soriot was rebelling against. This was the reality of the 18th and early 19th centuries, a continent run by empires. This map probably looks pretty strange to you. I mean, there's no Germany, no Italy. What you have instead are these huge, sprawling empires run by dynasties, where territories were just passed down through a royal family. These weren't unified countries with a common identity. They were just collections of different lands, all ruled by a single king or emperor.
For a perfect example, just look at the Habsburg Empire. It was a total patchwork quilt. The ruling class mostly spoke German, but it also included Italian-speaking areas like Lombardy and Venetia. Over in Hungary, half the people spoke Magyar. You had Polish speakers in another part. Then you had Croats, Slovaks, Bohemians, all these different groups. They didn't share a language or a culture. The only thing holding them all together was their loyalty to one person, the emperor.
So, how did we get from that messy patchwork to the idea of a nation? Well, the spark was lit in 1789 with the French Revolution. This was the moment that radical idea was born. The people, not the king, are the nation.
And this didn't just happen on its own. Oh no. The French revolutionaries were very deliberate about creating a new shared identity. First, they introduced new concepts like la patrie, the fatherland, and le citoyen, the citizen. Then they ditched the old royal flag for a powerful new symbol, the tricolor. They created a new government, the National Assembly, that was elected by the people. And finally, to really tie everyone together, they created one set of laws, one system of measurement, and even pushed one common language for the whole country.
And this idea just couldn't be contained. This German almanac from 1798 shows it perfectly. On the left, you've got the storming of the Bastille in Paris, and right next to it, on the right, is a similar fortress in a German state. The message was crystal clear. This revolution is coming for you, too. The idea was spreading like wildfire.
Now, the person who did more than anyone to spread that fire across Europe was, pretty ironically, a dictator, Napoleon Bonaparte.
This is the great Napoleon paradox, right? The guy was a dictator who became the biggest exporter of liberty in modern Europe. Back home in France, he destroyed democracy and crowned himself emperor. But as his armies conquered the rest of the continent, they brought those revolutionary ideas with them, completely turning the old world upside down.
The key was something called the Napoleonic Code of 1804. In all the lands he took over, this code was a bombshell. It got rid of all the special privileges that nobles had just for being born. It made everyone equal in the eyes of the law.
It freed peasants from being tied to the land. For the average person, this was a massive, modernizing leap forward. So, as you can imagine, at first a lot of people were thrilled. The French armies rolled into places like Holland, Switzerland, and Milan, and they were welcomed as heroes, as liberators, who were here to free them from their oppressive old kings. But that welcome party didn't last. This image here captures the mood change perfectly. You see the French soldiers planting a tree of liberty, but at the same time they're harassing the local women and forcing a peasant down to his knees. People quickly realized the French also brought heavy taxes, strict censorship, and forced you to join their army. The liberators were starting to look a whole lot like conquerors.
So while Napoleon's armies are marching all over Europe, there's another, quieter revolution happening in the background, an economic one. And this change created the exact group of people who would pick up the torch of nationalism and run with it.
As industrialization started spreading, a whole new social class popped up, the middle class. These weren't nobles, and they weren't peasants. They were educated businessmen, factory owners, doctors, lawyers. And for them, the ideas of individual freedom, a government that represents the people, and a unified nation just made sense. They wanted to get rid of the old aristocratic system and create a single national market for their businesses.
And this new way of thinking was summed up perfectly by the philosopher Ernst Renan. He said a nation isn't really about a shared race or language. It's something you actively choose. He called its existence a daily plebiscite, like a vote you cast every single day, based on a shared past and a shared desire to build a future together. It's a conscious choice to belong.
And so, throughout the 19th century, this idea just took root and exploded. The Napoleonic Wars spread it everywhere, and even after Napoleon fell in 1815, you couldn't put the genie back in the bottle. By 1848, the same year Suryu painted his dream, revolutions demanding nation-states erupted all across Europe, and eventually this led to the creation of countries like Germany in 1871. The dream was actually becoming a reality.
The idea of the nation-state was one of the most powerful, world-changing ideas of its time. It completely redrew the map and redefined who people were. Which kind of makes you wonder, right? What are the big utopian ideas out there today that are redrawing the maps of our world?